When Trump's Agriculture Secretary claimed SNAP is riddled with fraud, Congressman Salud Carbajal didn't hesitate. That is absolutely false. And the facts are on his side.
Gentleman yields back. Now recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Carbajal, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Secretary Rollins.
Thank you.
First of all, let me just say thank you for seeing the light and reopening the 8 out of the 9 USDA offices in California that you closed, and then realized it was creating a lot of chaos for many of our farmers and would have a really negative impact. You've reopened those, and I want to thank you for that. I represent the Central Coast of California, where agriculture is the #1 industry, and a wide range of specialty crops are grown. When I meet with growers back in my district, one of the major issues they mention is the labor shortage. I'm sure you're aware the administration has intensified its deportation efforts, which have created significant fear and uncertainty within California's agriculture labor force. In fact, yesterday, a Farm Bureau in my district publicly voiced concerns over the impact of these enforcement actions. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to submit for the record the Ventura County Farm Bureau statement, if I may do so.
Without objection.
I'm going to give you that. Secretary, given the uncertainty of this immigration climate as it relates to agriculture labor, what specific steps is the Department of Agriculture taking to support both farmers and their workforce?
Well, thank you. And let me be clear, I think it was a lease confusion with GSA. I don't think it was a USDA question, but neither here nor there. I'm glad those offices are open for our farmers again. The labor question is a significant one. It is one that is perhaps maybe not the very top of the list, but for some they would say the very top of the list. We feel it. I mentioned earlier that in Texas, the citrus producers on the Texas side of the border on average pay labor $23 if they can even get the labor. On the other side, at the Mexican border, it's $2 an hour. This is unsustainable, and our ag community cannot continue to do what they need to do under the current effort. Clearly, the president has a vision that I support of ensuring that we've got legal immigrants in this country, but he also recognizes, I spoke with him this morning and yesterday, the shortages in the labor market, especially in the agriculture community. On April the 10th, at our second or third cabinet meeting, he spoke in front of the cameras on this and said to Lori Chavez DeRimmer, also herself from a farming background from Oregon, but also California farming roots, our labor secretary, in concert and partnership with this committee and Congress, we have to fix the H-2A program and ensure that we can make certain that these producers have the labor that they need to feed not only America but the world.
Thank you. Well, they're creating a lot of fear and uncertainty, and a lot of this limited workforce is quite frankly not showing up to harvest our farms. Just yesterday, we had some immigration raids on some of the farms that are within my district, thus the statement that I just submitted. Secretary, I know some of my colleagues here today have brought up the issue with H-2A, and during your testimony before the House Agriculture Appropriations Subcommittee last month, you mentioned that you were working with the Department of Labor and the White House to reform the H-2A program. Can you provide an update on the progress of those efforts, and with the administration's support, the bipartisan legislation such as the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which is one bipartisan? Secretary DeRimmer was one of the co-authors of that, and I want to just draw that to your attention. One, would you support that? And which of your awareness, for your awareness, current Secretary of Labor DeRimmer, again, is a co-sponsor, and I would appreciate your response to that.
Well, clearly the real reform has to come from Congress. I mean, I don't mean to pass the buck, that is not it at all, but I have had lots of conversations. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this without congressional authorization? To your point, I think that the leadership currently, our administration realizes the significant challenges and are open and welcome to trying to help however we can to solve that, including the president. So I will continue that effort. Now, within the Labor Department with Lori Chavez DeRimmer, she is very focused on this issue. We have met about it multiples of times. I think you'll be hearing more about that very, very soon, but you have our commitment. We're doing everything we can to work to solve for that as much as we can.
Thank you. Can you explain how proposed cuts to nutrition programs like TFAP and SNAP benefit growers, especially when it's farmers who produce the fruits and vegetables for these programs?
Well, so on the one hand, you're talking about the food bank programs. On the other, you're talking about SNAP. So I will talk about SNAP first. We spend at just USDA across 16 nutrition programs about $400 million a day on those nutrition programs. That's just alone. By any given number, up to 30% of that is fraud, waste, and abuse. At this time of unemployment, we were at 17 million. We're now at 42 million people on the SNAP program. So there is a lot of room to do better. And
I'm out of time, but let me just say, fraud is 1% or less. There's that is
Sir, that is not the
absolutely
case.
false. So I just want you to know.
Gentlemen's
We can't even get the
you are
data.
falsifying information.
That is what, please send what you have, and then let me compare it to what we have, because that
you
is,
could send me what you have, and we'll both compare what we have.
I'll be happy to do that.
Gentlemen's time has expired. Now.
This exchange is a perfect example of why facts still matter and why Democrats are so forcefully pushing back against misinformation coming out of this administration. Congressman Salud Carbajal wasn't just defending SNAP, he was defending reality. Secretary Rollins attempted to justify cuts to nutrition programs by claiming that as much as 30% of SNAP spending is fraud, waste, and abuse. That number is not just misleading, it's wildly inaccurate. Decades of USDA data show SNAP fraud rates hovering around 1% or less. That's not a talking point. That's documented fact, and Carbajal knew it immediately. Why does this matter? Because when officials inflate fraud numbers, they're not just misrepresenting data, they're laying the groundwork to cut food assistance for millions of Americans who rely on SNAP to survive. Children, seniors, veterans, disabled Americans, working families who simply don't earn enough to keep up with rising costs. Carbajal also connected the dots in a way that often gets ignored. SNAP doesn't just help families, it helps farmers. It creates demand for fruits, vegetables, dairy, and meat produced by American growers. Cutting SNAP doesn't save money. It hurts local economies, destabilizes food markets, and squeezes the very farmers this administration claims to support. The hypocrisy becomes even clearer when you consider the broader context. At the same time this administration is pushing aggressive immigration enforcement that's frightening farm workers off the job, it's also proposing cuts to the programs that help farmers sell their crops. Labor shortages on one end, reduced food access on the other. That's not smart policy, that's self-inflicted damage.